Hey everyone, before this video, I just want to say thank you to all the new people who have subscribed in the last month. And if you're one of them, then hello, and if you're not, then thank you for sticking around. Enjoy the video. The concept of normal people becoming superheroes is an idea that dates back to the start of the genre. In more recent years, there's been a rise in darker stories about heroes who might not even have powers. Kid Cosmic lands somewhere in the middle. It's got a beautiful, inky, scribbly art style reminiscent of classic newspaper comics like Calvin and Hobbes, and it's got wonderful, snappy animation. But beneath the seemingly simple Saturday morning premise is a much deeper exploration of failure and what it means to be a hero. Before we get into Kid Cosmic, I think it's important to take a look at its creator, Craig McCracken. This guy has pretty much mastered cartoons from shows like Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends, The Wanderer of Yonder, and most importantly for this video, The Powerpuff Girls. Something I really admire about Craig McCracken's shows is how purposely distinct they feel from one another. They all kind of go down different genres and explore different worlds and creative avenues, and that's what really intrigued me about Kid Cosmic. McCracken had already put his spin on the superhero genre with Powerpuff Girls, and to see him revisit this area 20 years later was really intriguing. So let's take a quick look at the Powerpuff Girls to contextualize where Kid Cosmic is coming from. First airing in the glorious year of my birth, 1998, Powerpuff Girls stood out like a sore thumb in the superhero landscape in all the best possible ways. In both comics and animation, the 90s saw a glut of dark, tortured heroes, so to see something like the Powerpuff Girls was a subversive breath of fresh air. The economic but stylish art direction definitely helped, along with the hilarious writing that didn't dumb down anything for kids. Nowadays, comedy and colour is much more on the menu for superheroes than it was in 1998. Actually, there had been a whole world of change since then, so to see how McCracken would flip the genre on its head once again was an incredible thing to watch. Kid Cosmic is about Kid Cosmic, an aspiring superhero who finds 5 magical space rocks that grant powers to whoever possesses them. Kid assembles a team of unlikely heroes and they fight aliens in the desert. Or at least that's how it starts. I wasn't really expecting Kid to have such an engaging, overarching narrative. I was all ready to watch a fun Monster of the Week show, but I was so happy with what it turned out to be. Although McCracken primarily works in episodic content, his longer form narratives definitely stand out. When I was younger, I distinctly remember watching Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends Season 1 3-part opener and just being blown away with what could be done when cartoons explore harder subject matter with enough time to breathe and really develop. To get a whole 10-episode story from McCracken was very exciting. Powerpuff Girls subvert superheroes in a very overt way, and I believe this is by design of its episodic format. It cleverly only takes one episode to understand what McCracken was going for. Kid Cosmic is much more covert. Its subversion lies under the surface of a fun origin story that takes a few episodes before it shakes off its superhero conventions and ensnares the viewer in a very insightful character study. Like I said before, Kid Cosmic is about Kid Cosmic. Not the hero, but the person. Kid Cosmic does something very unique among superheroes. He fails. And not in like a Greek tragic fatal flaw type way, but in a very normal way. As his co-heroes become more adept at controlling their powers, Kid's abilities are stunted and uncontrollable. Although this leads to some of the most fun flight animation I've seen, it bypasses the typical superhero montage of improvement and diverges the narrative onto a completely different path. Appropriately placed halfway through the series in episode 5 is A Turning Point. After fighting some aliens, the gang discusses their roles within the group, and it's established that Kid is more seen as a secondary comic relief character rather than the hero that he thinks he is. As viewers, we see things through Kid's eyes, so of course we see him as the hero as he sees himself. But the twist that everyone else's perspective is different and that he is not the protagonist of this story is really interesting. It's like, what if He-Man was called Orko, and then 70 episodes in, Man-at-Arms was like, hey, you know He-Man's doing all the work, right? It made me think about what makes someone eligible to be a protagonist, especially in a genre that is so usually tied to one titular character. At this point in the show, Kid slowly starts to make less of an appearance. It feels as if the show knows that the illusion of the protagonist has been shattered, and that it needs to find someone else to follow now. There's even one episode which is mostly taken up by an elite team of superheroes, which genuinely feels like a reboot of the forgotten 90s cartoon.
Earth Force Enforcement Force!
Seeing these faceless symbols of strength mercilessly fighting aliens is purposely the opposite of what the show is about. Real people. I especially like how in a later episode, the near identical suits of these heroes are shattered to reveal the people underneath. Even if it's only for a second, there's so much more that the viewer can gauge about these characters from their faces rather than a cool suit. It's at this point that Kid is slowly phased back into the narrative now that we know he's more than just comic relief. He's seen burning comics and watching the battle from afar, as someone who isn't the hero would do. Seeing Kid burn comics was particularly poignant, not just because I love comics and find it hard enough to part with my own, but because of the role comics played in Kid's life previously. Kid feels like he has to be a hero. His parents died in a car accident and he's got a cape. Comics are an escape, but they're also a source of pressure. Kid is in the same position as many of the budding heroes he looks up to, so by not fulfilling his destiny and fully developing his powers, he feels like he's nothing. Something that I thought was done brilliantly was how Kid's trauma was handled. It wasn't just reserved for the narrative beats of a superhero, but it manifested itself throughout the show in small ways. Kid occasionally reveals a large scar, presumably from the crash, and he's continually cautious about the road. I really liked how when these things happened, they weren't the sole focus of the scene, but rather just small details that help build a complicated character. Because real people can't fit into the roles of a superhero team. Even comic relief has backstory. Even Orko is hurting. Overall, I really enjoyed Kid Cosmic. It's a fresh take on superheroes with great art style and amazing animation. There's a lot more to it that I didn't mention in this video, and it's only 10 episodes long, so I definitely encourage you to watch it if you haven't. Thanks for watching.